Do you know what the Bible actually says about wealth? Most people are not aware that the Bible talks about wealth, and they think that if it does mention it, it's negatively saying, hey, you're just supposed to give it all away. In fact, this is not true. The reality is that the Bible mentions money more than literally any other word in the entire Bible. And so if you are interested in what one of the oldest texts that people have looked to for wisdom for thousands of years has to say about wealth, stick around. Ready? Let's dive in. To understand what the Bible has to say about wealth, we have to understand two things first. The first thing we have to understand is what is wealth. The second thing we have to understand is what does the Bible say about it first? Because everything that the Bible says about it is going to come from what it says about it first. We have to understand the beginning before we can understand the rest. It's a book. It's a story. We've got to start at the beginning. So first things first, what is wealth? Wealth is stuff. Economically speaking, this would be considered GDP. And even though there are a lot of problems with the way GDP is measured, GDP is simply trying to measure the aggregate price of all of the stuff in an economy. And so when you look at all of the houses, when you look at all the cars, when you look at all of the gas, when you look at all the computers, when you look at all the food, when you look at all the clothes, when you look at everything that everybody buys, adds it all up, that's going to make the economy. That's GDP. That is actually wealth. That is the total stock of wealth in the economy. It's the goods and the services all lumped together. So that is wealth. So definitionally speaking, when we're talking here about creating wealth, we're not talking about accumulating a number of dollars. We're not talking about living a rich or lavish lifestyle. What we're talking about, definitionally speaking, is creating wealth, is creating more goods and services, more stuff that people want. And by definition, if you want it, you're going to pay for it. If something is not going to get paid for, then people don't want it. And so it's not going to count in terms of the total basket of wealth. So that's number one. What is wealth? It's just all the stuff. Number two, what does the Bible say about it first? Because we know, I'm sure you're aware of a lot of things that the Bible says about wealth and money and riches. Later on in the Bible, when Jesus is around, he says, give it away, be generous with it, share with those in need. All over the Bible, it talks about debt. It talks about living frugally. It talks about accumulating wealth, seeking wisdom, asking advice. It talks about working hard. All of that, though, is downhill and follows what it says about wealth first, which actually comes in the very beginning, the very first chapter of the Bible, Genesis 1, when God creates people. This is in the Garden of Eden. He creates Adam and Eve, and he gives them the first command. He says, be fruitful, multiply, subdue the earth. Now, this is a very odd word here, subdue the earth, because it conjures up images of going out and beating something into submission, but that's exactly the word that is used here for going out into the world and taking ownership of it. And so that is the first principle, what the Bible says about wealth creation. It's on a premise, it's on the foundation of ownership. Go out into the world and subdue it. Own things. Go out into the world and looking through the lens of the original people in the Garden of Eden going out into the earth. This was going out there and taking ownership of the stuff in creation and making it useful and profitable for yourself. So we were commanded as people to go out into the world, get a rock, get some lightning, shove them together, and make a computer chip. That's a transistor, silicon, a lightning, electricity. You get the point. So we're supposed to go out there and take all of the stuff, the raw materials, dig into the ground and pull out some liquid brown stuff and light it on fire and create the internal combustion engine with gas and oil. We're supposed to go out there and we're supposed to get different plants and pull different parts, the little parts of the plants out, mix them together and make medicine that fixes diseases. We're supposed to go out there and be creative, take all of the things, the raw materials, have ownership over them, subdue it, rule and reign over creation, and use it in a way that creates more than what was there originally. That's what we're supposed to be doing. And that's what we actually do. Most of us do all day long without knowing it. We go out into the world and we trade something that's less valuable and turn it into something that's more valuable. That's the act of creation. So we go out there when we start our careers and we trade time for money. So we take something that's less valuable to us, our time, and we exchange it for something that's more valuable to us, that money. And then we go back out in the world and take that money and exchange it again for something that's even more valuable to us than that money, which is food and clothing and shelter and transportation. And that money then goes to the people who were able to create those and gave them to us. They're able to take those and they're able to innovate. They're able to reinvest that. They're able to make better products, more products. And then all throughout history, what we have is this evolution of innovation and iteration where we get more food, more shelter, more transportation, more luxury, where today somebody living in poverty has access to goods and services and wealth that were not available to anybody regardless of how wealthy they were, living even just a few hundred years ago. You're able to access DoorDash and Spotify and Netflix, and you have luxuries and entertainment that were not available to even the richest person a few hundred years ago. Running water, hot water, everything that we have, air conditioning, everything that we take for granted today, those are things that have come about because humans have gone out into the world, taken the raw materials, recombined them in a way, because they own them through ownership, recombine them in a way that makes them more useful, trading something, a raw material like time or rocks or whatever it is, exchanging it for something that is more. We're creating wealth from the raw materials. And that is the fundamental purpose, mission, command given to mankind in the Bible at the beginning, is go out into the world, own it, subdue it, rule over it, reign over it, make it useful and profitable for yourself. And everything downstream of that, whether it's working hard, whether it's getting out of debt, whether it's seeking wisdom financially, whether it's sharing generously, it all stems from wealth creation. Because you cannot give generously wealth that has not yet been created. It's not possible. You've got to create it first and own it, and then you can give it away. And so it's not to be selfish. It's not to live a lavish lifestyle. It's not to be completely self-centered and separate yourself from the world. It's in order to help the world and benefit everybody. And the more we do it through that lens, the wealthier we will actually get. So that is what the Bible says about wealth. First is create it. And it's fitting too, because this follows the creation story where God creates literally everything in the entire universe. And so he goes to humans who he just created and says, hey, I am putting you into this world to be little versions of me. I just created everything. Go take those raw materials that I created and create something even better out of it. And if you've ever been to church and never heard anybody talk about money, now you probably know one of the reasons why I originally named this channel Heresy. As always, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day.